Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us on today. Before we get to the mission at hand, I want you all to give, and I'm going to ask them to come out. I hope they don't have anything on the grill or cooking right now that needs to be flipped, but I really do need people to see them. I want to introduce you to Serena Green. Serena. They're coming, they're getting ready. They're working hard to accommodate us. Serena, so when they come out, you'll know who they are. Serena's the mother, and Carrie Green's the co-owner. And this is a mom and daughter operation. So when they come on out, let's let them know how. Come on now, Serena and Carrie. All right, so I want one of you to come stand over here. So I want to welcome you all to, now if any of you walked in and you called this place the Pink Plate Cafe, you would be wrong. They are not the Pink Plate Cafe. This is the Pink Plate Cafe with co-owners Serena and Carrie, mom and daughters, who opened during the last Wadsworth Day celebration. And we're here intentionally so that we could see small neighborhood-based Black women ownership in the city of Philadelphia, still believing in our city. And I want to thank you all so very much for allowing us to be here on today as we start a very important conversation, and we're grateful. Now, this part you might like to cook and you might like to serve, but I'm going to ask you to do something that you're probably saying, I hope she won't ask me. Which one of you are going to have some remarks?
It's going to be Carrie.
Give it up for Carrie.
Well, Mayor Parker, I just want to thank you for considering us to even put this on today. We're new in business and we're learning as we go, and we just appreciate all the love in the room, because pink is love, and you know, we cook for love, so we really appreciate each and every one of you, and you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. We appreciate all of the accommodations. Listen, I do want to acknowledge everyone who is gathered here on today. There are VIPs who are present, but I do want to acknowledge the African American Chamber of Commerce. Where's the African American Chamber? Regina Hairston, our president. Thank you so very much for being here. Asian American Chamber, where, how do I pronounce your first name? Kind author. Give Kind a round of applause. Thank you, Kind. The Independence Business Alliance. Thank you so much. Is it Zach? Thank you, Zach, for being here. We appreciate you. Della Clark from the Enterprise Center, the legendary Della Clark. Thank you so very much for being here. Jeff Hornstein from the PA Academy League. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. And this list is in development. We are going to get started, and you're going to hear from the speakers in this order. First, you're going to hear from Renee Garcia, who is the city solicitor for the city of Philadelphia. You'll then hear from Nadir Jones, who is the director of business impact and supplier diversity. You'll also hear from Donna Jackson Stevens, who is our acting chief DEI officer. And from the city of Philadelphia staffing perspective, our Chief Deputy Mayor, Vanessa Garrett Harley, is going to be the final speaker from the team, and then I will give some closing remarks, and then we want to hear from you. Is everybody all right with the order of things? Let me ask our City Solicitor, Renee Garcia, to get us started.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm going to walk through the law today, and then we'll get to the fun stuff, how we're building back better. My job as a solicitor is to assess risk for the city of Philadelphia and provide the best legal guidance to my clients to protect the city's interests, to ensure compliance with the law, to safeguard public resources, including tax dollars, and to help the city operate effectively and responsibly. There is a point where that risk is so great that we have to pivot. And that is the case here. And I'm going to walk you through it all so that you understand the position that the mayor has been put in, that the city has been put in. And it really starts in June of 2023. The federal landscape changed dramatically with the issuing of a Supreme Court decision in the case Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard. That's the affirmative action case. That's how it's known. Applying strict scrutiny, the court decided that race-based presumptions of disadvantage are no longer constitutional. What is strict scrutiny? Strict scrutiny is the highest level of judicial review. It is required in order to move a race-based program forward, and it is called a daunting two-step examination. Number one, the program must put forward a compelling government purpose. And number two, it must be narrowly tailored to achieve that purpose. Now, what does that mean? What is a compelling government purpose? The court held very clearly a compelling government purpose is not to remedy disparities in the community, in an industry. It is to remedy discrimination by the government entity. So you have to show not that more Hispanic businesses are getting opportunities than Asian businesses. What you have to show is that the city, the state, the federal government discriminated. Number two, narrowly tailored. What does that mean? It means that the program has to be time-bound. The program has to eliminate all other factors, all other barriers, so that race is the only issue at play. The standard now is so high that it is dubbed fatal in fact. And after this decision went down, court after court after court, we had slides up there, decision after decision after decision, where MBE programs were struck down. And these were MBE programs that had disparity status, okay? One after the other after the other. And then it was our turn. We were sued a number of years ago in a case called RoadCon v. City in Philadelphia that involved our project labor agreements, our PLAs. There were cases, there were three issues. There was the anti-competitive nature of it, First Amendment, and equal protection. We had one summary judgment on the issue of standing only. It went up to the Third Circuit. That's the federal appellate district in our area. The appellate court took up the equal protection claim and found that our policy was facially discriminatory, which means we're in strict scrutiny. Now, I just told you what that meant, right? So that would mean the city would have to show discrimination by the city and that our program was narrowly tailored. The language in the PLA exactly mirrors the language in our OEO program. Best effort standards and aspirational goals. We filed for rehearing and we lost. And that is when I had to turn to the mayor and say, there are bigger issues here with our entire program. And what we did, as much expertise as we have in my department, because we deal with constitutional issues all the time, we had to go an even higher level of expertise. And so we hired a firm called Hecker Fink. And this is a firm, I call them my genius attorneys, because they all clerk for Supreme Court justices. And they handle the hardest cases throughout the country. And we went back and forth with them. Can we do this? Can we do this? What about this? What about that? And in the end, what we decided and what we had to present to the mayor was that our OEO program was not going to withstand constitutional scrutiny. It had been around for 40 years. We were not going to be able to show intentional discrimination. And it was not narrowly tailored. It wasn't time-bound. It wasn't industry specific. We didn't have the data to back it up. We also knew it wasn't working. How were we gonna go to bat? How were we gonna go to certain death on a program that's not working? And it was time to pivot. And I remember that day, Mayor, because that was a very, very hard meeting. And I brought with me one of the genius attorneys, Carmen Iguina Gonzalez, who clerked for Sotomayor. And we had to face that hard reality. And you asked us 1,000 questions because you didn't want to do it. But we're at the point where we have to. Like I said, we were marching into certain death. And I don't think marching into certain death makes you brave. I think it makes you dead. Again, on a program that doesn't work. So we presented to the mayor our new idea. Small and local business, what you're going to hear about today. It is the time to innovate. It is the time to watch our program closely. We will be collecting data on minority participation, on women's participation. Because if we see the numbers tank, that's a different story, right? So we are going to be monitoring, we're going to be using the data, and we are going to be building back even better. And I'm happy to bring Vanessa Garrett-Harley up, Chief Deputy Mayor, to talk about the next phase.
So, good evening, everyone. As you heard the solicitor say, we have been forced to make changes in our minority women and disabled business program in order to be in compliance with federal law, as outlined by both the Supreme Court and the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. But despite these changes, as I stand here today, I just want to assure all of you that the Parker administration, I am not, the mayor is not, we are not stepping back from our responsibility to direct resources where they are needed, the absolute most. We're committed to investing in our residents, our communities, and Philadelphia's future in general. We remain anchored in those values that define the city. That's the community, the resilience, and the belief that opportunity should be and belongs to everybody. When I took this job as Chief Deputy Mayor, it was a little over a year ago. One of the first things that Mayor Parker asked me to do was to take a look at the Minority Business Success programs. Because the Office of Minority Business Success at that time it was called, was under my portfolio. But the mayor was very concerned that the office and other programs at the city was not working based on feedback she was continuing to get from business owners and other people. And so I went on, a comprehensive journey of trying to figure out what was going on. What were the outcomes? Was the program meeting the intended purpose? And one thing that I quickly realized was that our work to create a meaningful business opportunity for minority women, for minorities, for women, and other disabled businesses was pretty much just compliance-based. It was not qualitative. It was not reaching the intended outcomes, and it was not helping particularly our businesses that were black and brown. And in particular of those, our black businesses were not progressing. They were just not moving forward. The work, it was not there. So, as it stood traditionally, our Office of Economic Opportunity, or OEO as we called it, they set ranges for contracts. That's part of why we're here today. Everybody heard you will no longer be requiring those ranges. But we used to set the ranges for contracts, and then we would execute, and we collect the data, and then we would determine whether the goals were met. But the focus was mostly on whether there was participation at all, right? We were checking boxes. As opposed to creating that sort of strategic and meaningful business growth that would really be what was necessary in order to create more economic mobility in the city. When you look at the research and sort of analyze Philadelphia's progress over time, you heard us say this MWBE program been in existence for over 4 decades, and none of those decades did it achieve the desired result. We were still lagging behind peer cities in minority business growth. In November 2025, the Pew Foundation issued a brief that showed that Philadelphia's total black business density from 2012 to 2022, 10 years worth, had really fallen further behind the national level and remained at the last among comparison localities, right? So our business density is defined by the number of businesses per capita. A study conducted by Drexel before the most recent mayoral election found that there were significant racial, ethnic, and gender disparities in business ownership in Philadelphia when measured on a per resident basis. Black-owned employer firms have the biggest gaps, with only 2 black-owned firms per 1,000 black residents, while their counterparts were 22 white-owned firms per 1,000 white residents. Realized quickly, based on looking at the research and the data, that we needed to be more intentional and qualitative and figure out how we could generate some sustainable business growth for Philadelphia. We looked at how the city could use its purchasing power in a different way that would actually work to improve opportunity for Philadelphia businesses, helping them grow, increasing their market share, and ultimately helping the region grow some jobs. We wanted to elevate opportunity for our businesses, not just regulate. When we were advised by the law department and the outside counsel that the law required us to make changes to this MWBE program, we challenged ourselves to see how we can make actually notable and sustainable progress for all businesses. Now, I do want to say, I say when we were advised by the law department, but that work had been going on from almost the beginning of when I came in, which was about a year ago, to try to get there. But it fast-tracked us. It pushed us to know we got to move a little faster and we got to do a lot better. So we commissioned a report on small and local businesses. And through economic modeling, we learned that a 50% increase in the city's local spending will redirect an additional $229 million within the city's economy without even increasing the overall procurement budget.
Right.
That meant if we just were monitoring this and spent correctly, we could make a huge turnaround. And that was using a report that we had brought in by eConsult. We could achieve some of the desired outcomes for our businesses and the city by just redirecting those dollars. We understand the need and the intended purpose of the old system. We're not abandoning it, the purpose that is. We're not abandoning the vendors or the businesses, many of you here, that the city has used and still needs to use. We're building on it. In fact, we looked at our existing OEO registry, and if I was being honest, only 20% of the businesses in that registry actually were getting city contracts. That means 80% of the folks in the registry were not getting the contracts. Obviously, it was not working. A review of the vendors in the current OEO registry shows that the overwhelming majority will still qualify as we're pivoting to this new program of small and local. I was almost going to say all, but I could be off by 1 or 2. But I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority are still going to qualify under the small and local program that Nadir's going to come up in a minute and tell you about. But we learned from experience that real growth would not happen from helping businesses obtain city contracts. We also need to be able to support businesses through technical assistance, programming designed to help them compete in the overall market and not just the city market. We're also working to deepen our relationship with the business community by soliciting feedback and suggestions from the Mayor's Business Roundtables. One of the reasons why it made sense, we created the Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement. Because after my work, I went to the mayor and said, this is not going to work, as far as I'm concerned, the way you have it done. We had the Office of Economic Opportunity, or OEO, was sitting in Commerce. We had DEI sitting in another place. We had the Office of Minority Business Success sitting in another place. We had a number of programs at the city, and I'm not saying they weren't doing good work, but it was very siloed work.
That's right.
Right? And in order to bring them together and to make this make sense, we needed a way to pull it in. And we also needed the right leaders, if I'm being frank. We needed people with the right expertise to make this work. So created the Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement. And in that office, we moved the Office of Economic Opportunity, or OEO, moved it from Commerce to go under this particular office and umbrella, and also what was formerly the Office of Minority Business Success, changed some of the mission, enhanced the mission, if you will, and it became the Office of Business Growth. Both of them sit under this Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement, right? Because it was good to have them under one umbrella. In addition, by having them in my portfolio, I also have the Mayor's Office of Business Roundtables, which gives us immediate access and feedback to the business community and what they're thinking there, and that's led by Donovan West, who I see in the back. I also have the Office of Strategic Partnerships. Our Chief Equity our Chief Strategic Partnership Officer, which is helping us to build on those public-private partnerships, which we have to do more because the city by itself won't be enough to undergird these businesses. We need help on bringing in the private sector more to help underbuild that. That's in that office as well. And also the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI, is under. You will hear from the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Donna Jackson-Steffens, after Nadir comes up to speak, but want to say that we are not scrubbing the city of DEI. We are not scrubbing the city of the DEI programs or the practices or the protections that are there. We still wholeheartedly believe in those values. And you'll hear Donna tell you that DEI is really about values, right? Some folks get confused with what it really means when you hear that language. But it is really about values, and it's really about equity, and it's really about giving everybody an opportunity and leveling the playing field. And that's where we still are. And that's what we're still about doing. Now, going back to that Office of Business Impact, it was critical that we brought in somebody that had the right leadership and with some experience and would know how to build a new program that could be successful, right? And I'm pleased to say that we brought in Nadir Jones, who had a wealth of experience in growing small and diverse business programs. Nadir worked at the New York Transportation Authority, where he developed and managed their small business mentoring program. He worked at Caldwell Banker, Richard and Ellis, the largest real estate company in the world, where he built out and grew their global diversity program. He also worked at the New Jersey Department of Transportation, Office of Civil Rights, where he managed their federal disadvantaged business enterprise program. So he now leads our Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement, which we're very proud of. The purpose of that office is to expand the opportunity for Philadelphia businesses or businesses in general that are doing business with Philadelphia, and to provide technical assistance to help move the needle for our Philadelphia businesses to grow and thrive. The Office of Business Growth is responsible in particular by offering local businesses that technical assistance, support, education, and also trying to help them in gaining access to capital and building capacity. Access to capital is critical. That's it. You're going to hear somebody I learned an awful lot about as I started doing this journey, Della Clark, who I call her all times of day and night, say, explain this to me. It's not making sense. She's going to talk to you about that access to capital because we know that's one of the major barriers that our businesses are facing. OEO is also going to work with the city departments, and I do want to set this, and Nadir will tell you more. People are saying, but if you don't set goals, how do you hold people accountable? How do you know they'll do what you say? We will be setting goals and ranges, but they will be for small and local businesses, right? We are also going to monitor not only whether or not somebody is in compliance with a plan from a city department or something, but also we're going to be measuring and using those metrics that will, determine whether or not businesses are actually growing or sustaining what they do. We will also be continuing to track the data that we were previously looking at for the Office of MWBE. Why? Because we want to see if we're getting the desired results and whether these businesses that are Black, brown, women owned are faring better under the new program. Some folks say, how will you know that it's working? How will you tell that it's different, any different than the one you've been running 40 years and y'all didn't see that it wasn't working, right? And you didn't do anything different, because it's about intentionality. Having built out an office, having some folks now that their full-time job is to make this program work, and having a mayor like Mayor Sherelle Parker, who is really committed to this work from day one and is willing to give the resources that we need to make it work. So look, I look forward to the progress that I know we're going to make over the next few years. Philadelphians deserve to live in a city with a strong, healthy economy, where the businesses can grow and obtain meaningful contracts directly from the city, as well as in this business region, not just at the city. Park administration, we stand firmly in our vision of a city where people are proud to be here, to live, to work, to do business, and that there is economic opportunity for all. Now I'm pleased to introduce you to Nadir Jones, who will be coming up after me. I do want to say our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer is Donna Jackson-Steffens. She's going to come up after Nadir. Donna also comes with a wealth of experience, having come from the airport as the VP for DEI at the airport, but also the one who set up some of these small and local business programs at the airport that has been very, very successful. You will hear from both of them in that order.
So thank you, Chief Deputy Mayor Garrett Hartley. So I'm Nadir Jones. I'm the director of the new Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement. As you just heard from our city solicitor, the current state of the law required the city to make changes to the way we do business. Faced with this challenge, the park administration used this opportunity to make changes that will work better for Philadelphians. We made a strategic decision to pivot, develop, and implement a program that focused on genuine small business development and incentivizing the small business community. This is how the City of Philadelphia's Small and Local Business Program was born. So why should we focus on small and local? How would this help Philadelphians? Would this be better than the old system? How will it help Philadelphians succeed? These are all questions I'm sure that you have. We switched to this new program because we want to keep money circulating within the community. We want to drive innovation in the city. We want to create life-sustaining jobs. We want to expand opportunity. Many of you are familiar with the study conducted by Harvard professor Raj Chetty. In this study, he found Philadelphia ranked dead last, 50 out of 50, in economic mobility in large metro regions. Moreover, we also knew that the growth of minority businesses in Philadelphia was stagnant. In other words, it was not growing at the rate it should be. Businesses in Philadelphia deserve better. So under this new program, the City of Philadelphia will require city departments to invest in businesses that are either small, local, or both. We will define small business using a three-tier trajectory model: emerging, mid-sized, and middle-market small businesses. We will look at annual gross receipts, employee count, and other criteria for businesses within the Philadelphia region. Businesses can qualify as a local business by being headquartered here in Philadelphia, or if more than 60% of their employees work within Philadelphia, or if more than half of their employees work in the city at least 60% of the time. We will resume setting narrowly tailored ranges and goals for city procurement contracts based on small local availability. We will establish bid preferences for small and local businesses right now. Currently, under the current LBE program, for bids under 1 million, small local businesses are afforded a 10% bid preference. For bids less than for bids more than $1 million, there's a 5% bid preference price point for local businesses. So I just want to reiterate, we're not abandoning the businesses that we worked with in the past. In fact, most if not all the current vendors in our OEO registry, the Office of Economic Opportunity, will qualify as small and or local. With this new strategy, we will be able to grow this base and build a new array of vendors. What is also new about this new procurement program is through the new Office of Business Growth and our Supply PHL partners, we will institutionalize measurable, real capacity building programs to address the barriers preventing small businesses from increasing market share and thriving in the economy. This program will focus on quality over compliance. By helping small businesses build capacity over time to become prime contractors and not simply regulated to serving as subcontractors on large public projects. We will establish a business growth pipeline program that monitors participating businesses quarterly using key performance indicators: revenue growth, employee headcount, contract values, and market penetration. Our new method of tracking will allow the city to identify high potential firms and provide stage-appropriate interventions such as working capital access, bonding assistance, and contract bid coaching designed to help small businesses grow into sustainable regional contractors. This program will serve as a dedicated mechanism to track the growth trajectory of business to business and business to institutional suppliers, and provide targeted services to help scale to mid-market and institutional contracting. I want to reiterate, this is not an eradication of a program. This is an evolution that will provide more growth to Philadelphia's business economy. Now, with that being said, I would introduce my colleague, Interim Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, Donna Stephen Jackson.
Thank you, Donna.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as he mentioned, I'm Donna Jackson Steffens, and I am the Interim Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the City of Philadelphia. And so I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this very important conversation. I know that right now that DEI is on the minds of a lot of us. Universities, cities, organizations all around the nation right now are asking the questions. They're struggling and trying to come up with the right solutions, the right answer, the right balance. And so I want to say that Philadelphia is not alone in this moment, but our approach reflects who we are as a city. So I want to start by addressing some very common misconceptions that I've been hearing a lot. First of all, there is a difference between affirmative action programs and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That affirmative action programs are legal programs that were designed to address historical injustices. And these programs came from federal laws, they came from policies, they came from court rulings, and as my colleague so beautifully laid out. But without affirmative action programs, there are a lot of doors that may not have ever been opened for some of us. And so it's important that I want to start there, but let me say that DEI, by contrast, is not a law, it is not a mandate, but it is a set of values. It's how we do business. The DEI is about creating systems that are fair, that are effective, and that are inclusive. It's about putting resources where they belong the most, where they do the most good, and it's also about building community. And so when you think about the term DEI, it's a relatively new concept. Really, it's only been around for about a decade, maybe a little bit more as a concept. But the work behind it, the humanity behind it, is so much older. Many of you were doing DE&I long before it was called DE&I, that you were advocating for people who needed help. You were doing the work to make sure that vulnerable populations had what they needed in order to survive. And many of us were taught, from our families, right? We were taught to love our neighbors, right? We grew up with that. And even those neighbors who didn't look like us, who didn't grow up like us, who didn't pray like us, we were taught to love our neighbors. Well, that's what diversity in practice is. It's just about just loving your neighbors. When I think about equity, I think about, really it's about meeting people where they are. It's about providing those who need help and meeting them with the things they need in order to thrive. So for example, if I had two children, right? I had two children, and one was struggling in school, but one was an A+ student. I had an A+ student, I had an F student. I would support both of them. But I might have to give a little bit more to my struggling student to make sure they had what they needed in order to survive. Well, that's what equity is. Equity is just putting the finite resources we have in the places where it belongs. And then finally, as I think about inclusion, Philadelphia has always been a city of inclusion. When I think about where we stand today, that we are in what was the nation's first intentionally integrated neighborhood, that's about inclusion. It's in our DNA. So when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want you to think about it in terms of values. So as we look forward, as we think about what we have to do, we think about implementing initiatives like the Small and Local Business Program and preparing for future changes. We are reminded that many of the existing programs, the ones that exist now, were created long before we were even allowed to the table. They were created long before we were even the communities that were impacted by us were allowed, and they were even thought about. So fairness and justice had to be retrofitted onto those programs. What we're doing now is we have this opportunity to shape the programs in ways we haven't before, to be at the table and to create fairness and opportunities at the beginning of it. So because Nadir Jones is sitting at the head of designing these programs, and because we're under the direction of Vanessa Garrett Harley, because we are under the leadership of Sherelle Parker, that we are able now to create programs that are intentional about how we address those disparities from the beginning. And so I see this as an amazing opportunity. So affirmative action will continue to evolve as our laws change, as our administrations change, as our court rulings change. It will continue to evolve. But our commitment to fairness and to opportunity remains unwavering. And so from this office, I want to say that we are not walking away from it. We are not walking away from DE&I. We are evolving the work as we've done for generations. After Reconstruction, it was not called DE&I. After the Civil Rights Movement, it was not called DEI. And even now, as it evolves into whatever it's called, we will be there, and we will be there to protect the Philadelphians, because our goal is to create a place where every neighborhood is seen and every family is supported, and every resident has a real chance to thrive. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to introduce the next person coming up is Della Clark, President and CEO of the Enterprise Center somebody that has national acclaim for all the work that she does with businesses. Many of you may know her. I always tell Della she's straight, no chaser. If you know her well, she tell you what she think. From the day I walked in the door, I was introduced to her, and she said, "Let me tell you something, Vanessa. What you got here ain't working. This is not working. It ain't working for the businesses. They ain't moving. They ain't progressing. This is what they need." But on that basis, we struck up a working relationship that is developing into a friendship, because I had to take her at her word, right? She had the experience, she knew, and she's never let up. And you know, I thank the mayor for having a forward to bring Della in and have her, even though sometimes it's hard to hear that kind of feedback, but that's how she gave it to you, and we have been working and trying to work in tandem to improve since that day.
It's an honor to be here, and I will celebrate 34 years at the Enterprise Center in January. And I actually thought 34 years ago when I joined the Enterprise Center that I could train away the pain points of lack of capital.
Come on.
I thought I could workshop it away. I thought I could incubate it, accelerate it. And if you sit in this room and you started your business with little cash reserve, you know what I'm speaking of. It is very difficult to grow your business when you don't have cash reserve. And so while I appreciate all the conversations on DEI and what the city can do, when you got capital and your balance sheet is strong, you don't need DEI. You don't need it, right? For 70 years, we have encountered set aside. It's over 70 years old, right? In this new era that we're in, where it's chaotic, we can create a whole new ecosystem that flows through financial and capital markets and not through City Hall, right? So while I appreciate the conversation, I'm here to promote capital, right? And I'm making a commitment today that I am going to raise $1 billion over the next 5 years. So Mayor, I need a commitment you for $1 billion of procurement, local.
No bump fists on that. We get there. Go ahead.
Come on, Mayor. Well, somebody come bump me on that. Come on, Lynette. Bump me on $1 billion that locally we need to do in this city. Now, the only way Mayor can do that is that we got to come ready. We got to have cash reserve. We got to do our RFPs. Okay, we got to know our product and our service, and we got to deliver. So let's raise the standard of excellence in this city. Okay? Now, if you don't know how to reach me, the mayor's office, if you feel you're sitting in this room and you're not capital ready, I get to work at 7 in the morning from 7 to 9 I'm free. Okay? And I will help you get capital ready. So please call me. I also have capital, but you have to be ready for the capital. And I'm here to support you and help you. And I can't raise the $1 billion if we don't raise our standard of excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Della. Listen. Hey, Della, you know, Della, I've been working with you and around you for a long time. If I would have given you that bump, that would have been that I meant that I had the plan already to raise that $1 billion immediately. Until I have the ability to do that, that's when I'll come back and give you the bump. But listen, I want right now to say a special thank you to my team. Della, of course, I want to thank you for being here, but to Nadir Jones, to Donna Jackson Stevens, and to Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, and our city solicitor Renee Garcia. I want to thank each of you for your willingness to join me in going to war with the status quo. What we have said that we are going to do here in the city of Philadelphia, it is not an easy thing to do. You've heard from Renee Garcia, our city solicitor, our chief legal officer, about the legal advice that I formally and officially received from our law department. And I have to go back to this because I want you to know about the foundation that we stand on. When you hear our solicitor Garcia affirm that aside from the amazingly brilliant talent that we have within our city's law department, that was not enough. It's like when you get diagnosed with a debilitating illness and you say, I want to go and get a second opinion. That's what we did here. And we did not go just anywhere to get it done. Did you call these folks the genius lawyers? All of the folks who are at this firm clerked for Supreme Court justices. So when you think of Hecker and Fink, I want you to think about who you would want to help you interpret case laws and rulings coming from the United States Supreme Court. You would want somebody who has that experience. And that's important to me as your mayor for you to know. I'm thinking about this young lady specifically who was assigned to work with us, Carmen Aguina Gonzalez. And I remember, Renee, you're sharing with me that she clerked with Justice Sotomayor. And I know, I'm not sure if she's still with the firm. I think the ACLU may have stolen her. But I remember how amazingly meticulous she was, and interpreting, and every question that I had coming back and giving an answer to affirm for me that we have done our due diligence. So I want to say thank you to them. I want to say a few things with you as it relates to these issues relative to diversity and economic opportunity in awarding the city contracts. And it's an issue that I'm very familiar with. Now, some of you who are here know that I am no Johnny come lately to this wheelhouse. I have worked and I have fought for them throughout my career. Before I was elected to public office, but I was a part of being the staff. I was a part of the staff who was helping to prepare the council member that I worked for in City Council, Marion Tasco. And then when I got to Harrisburg as a member of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, then during my tenure as a city council representative in the 9th Councilmanic District. So obviously it's clear about why we're in the mighty 9th District here on today, because this very location and commercial corridor is a part of the ecosystem that I fought very, very hard for, and not just here, throughout the city of Philadelphia, to make sure that we were supporting our neighborhood-based businesses. Then majority leader of the City Council of Philadelphia, and now it'll be 2 years coming up as mayor of the city of Philadelphia. I want to take you back to something, two people who are here. I think Ann and Daryl are here. Some of you may not remember something called the Barbershop and Beauty Supply Program with the Commerce Department. That was a SABRE grant for $2.5 million that we did citywide. One of my babies during my tenure in City Council. Some of you, I'm thinking about that backroom technical support, Della, that I just heard you mention, that it alone is not enough because you need capital in order to do it. But there was a difference between the technical support that small neighborhood-based and minority-owned businesses that they had access to versus those that were in the prime. What do I mean? Everyone doesn't have a lawyer on retainer. Everyone doesn't have an accountant on retainer and someone to help them with their books. How could we connect Philadelphia businesses with that kind of support? We didn't just complain about it. We developed a program called Power Up Your Business to help businesses like this across the city of Philadelphia. And then it was that Walter P. Lomax Transparency in Business Act, one that was extremely important to me. The first time I ever actually heard of a minority-based business complaining to me about why I was authoring this legislation that was going to require this transparency and demographic information to be made public on contracts that were worth $100,000 or more here in the city of Philadelphia. We listened, but we made sure we implemented the law. Some of you may be familiar with Rebuild. Rebuild. I see some folks. Girl Concrete is here. The Diversity and Inclusion Foundation that helped to establish Rebuild was authored by Sherelle Parker. Why is that important for me to take you just through that process in my history? Because I've learned to have a great deal of restraint and patience in listening to people speak about issues that they're really, really not that familiar with, without acknowledging the history and the foundation associated with the very work that we've been doing here in the city of Philadelphia. I'm thinking about former council member Wilson Good Jr. I'm thinking about Leon Sullivan and OIC. I'm thinking about Charlie Bowser, who used to run the Urban Affairs Coalition. I'm thinking about all of those foundational leaders, and every time we got the baton, we were supposed to help to move the needle. I'm thinking about SNAP, the city's program, the support program that we just, because of the federal uncertainty and the state uncertainty, we had to step up and establish a program here to help our most vulnerable during that crisis and during the shutdown. And we did it here in the city of Philadelphia, and we did it with neighborhood grocers in mind. With that being said, I want you to think about something called the Accelerator Fund. How many people here have ever even heard of the Accelerator Fund in development here in the city of Philadelphia? The Accelerator Fund provides that access to capital for developers from historically disadvantaged groups. You heard Della Clark mention that, and in everything that we're talking about here on today, I want you to keep the term capital in mind, because all of that is extremely important when we talk about how we will move forward in addressing this challenge. So it's important for me to just affirm it for some of you in here who I don't know, so you know I'm not new to this fight. I've been a part of this for a long time. This is who I am. I am here because I have lived my life at the intersection of race and gender in a system that wasn't made for somebody like me to become mayor of this very city that I have the opportunity to lead right now. So for me to get here and to forget and to not make that access to economic opportunity that I promised to Philadelphians when I crisscrossed neighborhoods across this city that would be a part of my commitment to this city would mean that I'm derelict in my duties. And for those of you who are here who know me, I've never done anything without doing my homework first, and we've done that here with this program. So I know you've heard the chatter in class. I need you to know I need you. I need you to believe in us and the work that we are doing. Legally, it is true. We need to make a shift to be in compliance with the federal court, including that Supreme Court ruling, but long before that. And this is what people don't like. We've known that the programs that we've had in place haven't been working. They aren't working. That is why Raj Chetty's research that you mentioned in your remarks that has the Philadelphia region being 50 out of 50 as it relates to economic mobility, and you want me to be frustrated about going to war with the status quo and blowing up a system and a process that wasn't doing what it was meant to do? I don't apologize to anybody about that. I'm going to tell you what it made me think about. He's not here right now, but Managing Director Adam Teal, he led our city's efforts when we were building out our wellness ecosystem to address the opioid crisis in the open air drug market. And I can remember when we talked about Riverview and that we were going to focus on long-term care, treatment, and housing, because these were the issues that the city of Philadelphia had not invested in. And there was just so much criticism and just people saying, well, this is terrible. And then I turned around and I said, well, why am I getting all of this pushback here? I would think that any kind of additional supports for our most vulnerable residents here in the city of Philadelphia, that we will welcome that. Long-term care, treatment, and housing, things that you usually have to have access to wealth in order to get. But then I realized it. Sherelle, what you are establishing is upsetting the apple cart. There are some folks who literally, and I mean to say this, they benefited from a broken, dysfunctional system, and some people don't want us to fix the problem here in the city of Philadelphia because the money is in the treatment, not the cure. We are not here in the city of Philadelphia. I am not going to be stopped from implementing a tangible, results-oriented, values-based, data-driven process that will ensure that we are measuring our progress and that we're being transparent about it. Kristen is here, who's stood up and established our Philly 360 model. I'm not talking about, an impact report that's going to collect dust and go sit up on somebody's shelf. But how about knowing how the city of Philadelphia is measuring and how our businesses are growing, instead of just saying, oh, this goal alone is enough. The goal alone is not enough because we haven't done well enough. We have to, in a very tangible way, give concrete tools to our business community so that they can thrive. I also want to be very, very intentional about this. I celebrate diversity. I govern toward equity, and I practice inclusion every day. You see it in the Parker administration. I don't have to put a fist in the air and yell out loud that I embrace DE&I. Every time you see me in my administration, you know that we value diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we will not abandon it as one of the foundational principles that helps us to guide us in the future. And I don't apologize for that. So I don't care if you're talking about black people. I don't care if you're talking about women. I don't care if you're talking about people of color. I don't care if you're talking about the LGBTQIA plus community. We will have all, that's what One Philly means. We will have all of Philadelphia included in our efforts with our local and small business plan. Finally, I want to say this to you. We need capital to support the programs that work. Della, thank you for just affirming. I was going to give you that fist bump because I don't know if people heard the part where you said the city of Philadelphia can't do this alone. We do need public and private partnerships in order to get us there. And right now, for the first time, we are seeing members of the philanthropic community, along with the business community within the Parker administration, say we want to, in a very tangible and meaningful way, help this city with economic mobility. And we are not running away from our values as it relates to inclusion here in the city of Philadelphia. My job as mayor is to put together the best and the brightest team available to do it. I want you to know I am grateful to each and every one of them for their work. I am proud that they have established a system that will help us reach the goals. And I'm also proud that this work is intentional. You hear me? This is intentional. This is not a mistake in bringing a new focus to small and local businesses in Philadelphia, and we are going to make it happen. Yes, the federal court ruling, it required us by law. It required us by law to adjust, to pivot. But if you're like me and I'm an eternal optimist, out of crisis comes opportunity. It's what will the city of Philadelphia do at this moment? Let me tell you what I won't do as mayor. I won't cower to anyone who thinks if they yell louder. I will say we will go back to the old standard where we talked about a goal and a number, but we remain 50 out of 50 as it relates to economic mobility. I won't do that here in the city of Philadelphia. What I want to do and what we need to do is make sure that we stay close to each and every one of you who are present, who represent constituencies, who represent businesses in your own right, to help us through this process and in real time affirm to the city of Philadelphia, are we doing better today? Are we doing better with this new local and small business support program? Or do you think we should go back to the ways of the old that, quite frankly, to me, did not produce the supports and the results that we needed? With that being said, we want to make sure that we are available right now for discussion from you. We want to be very transparent. We want to ask you to ask some questions, give us some comments, and tell us what you are thinking about this moment. I don't want to start calling
Mayor
people.
Parker.
Yes, Solomon.
So my listeners on WURD, one thing that one of my listeners said when I asked them what they thought about this struck me. One of our listeners said that he wanted someone who was going to fight, no matter what. And he felt as though, and I'm sure he represents a fair number of people, that in doing this, the administration is not fighting what's happening at the federal level. Are you fighting? And does this represent fight?
Solomon, one, I love the question and I love the framing of it. Let me say to you that I am 53 years old and I have been working in government and public service since I was 17 years old. I don't know anyone in this city who knows me who's ever questioned whether or not I'm willing to fight for what I believe in. I'm a product of this city. You heard me reference the intersection of race and gender, but I thank God that I am made and built from the kind of material that says a speech is not enough. You have to deliver tangible results. To be quite frank, when I think about the most competitive and quite frankly expensive mayoral election in the history of this city that I had the opportunity to make it through, I don't think it was because the people who were in that race weren't great. I think they were amazing people. I think it was the ideas. I think it was this idea of my saying as mayor, I'm going to make government work for you. People are frustrated with speeches and hearing people talk a good game. They want to tangibly see results in their lives, in their neighborhoods where they live, and that is what I, throughout my entire agenda, have done. In my vision, safe, clean, green, with access to economic opportunity for all in every way imagined, we have delivered tangible results. So in this instance, I say, hold me accountable as mayor of the city of Philadelphia. And I'm fighting, but I'm fighting the fight the way I know best to achieve the results and extract the tangible results that I need for the people who live in this city, who own businesses in the city, who do business in our city. Tangible results. I don't have a right, Solomon, to tell you that how you fight isn't like the way I fight. And so if I'm yielding the results I need and you're yielding the results that you need, I just think we're both fighting and we have different strategies to get it done. I think about elected officials, quite frankly, and how elected officials measure effectiveness. This is important for me to affirm. I was a district council person and I was a state rep. I can quantify the tangible results and the resources that I leverage my seat at the table to deliver for the constituency I represented. I can do it on this corridor. I can do it in parks, rec centers, and libraries, and I'm talking about long before rebuild ever became a thing. I'm talking about my tenure in Harrisburg. You can do it. You need the best subject matter experts available in order to make it happen. You have to have the willpower and the courage to make tough decisions like we did when we were building out that wellness and ecosystem that we knew was going to be criticized, but we did it because we needed to achieve results. So I'm fighting, but I'm fighting the best way I possibly can as the mayor of the city because I am committed to yielding results for the people that I represent. Yes, Sean.
The city solicitor mentioned risks for staying on with the current program. What exactly are those risks specifically to OEO since there's no litigation involved in it?
So the risk is we're sued tomorrow. There's an injunction immediately, and you know where the suit comes from as someone who didn't get a contract. There's an injunction immediately. Our program is shut down. We have nothing in place. We spend years fighting. Okay, we're up to the Supreme Court. We lose. We waste taxpayer dollars. Again, we don't have a new program, and we make bad case law for the rest of the country. That's what we're faced with.
It's to avoid creating case law?
Sorry?
It's to avoid creating case law?
I mean, that's certainly part of it, right?
Is there a financial risk to this?
I mean, absolutely, right? First of all, again, we don't have a program. So, business taxes, on equal protection claims, when they're successful, we have to pay all of the attorney's fees of the other side. So we're talking about millions of dollars that could be going to the business community, right? This way we do it on our terms, right? We have time to build it, we have a plan, we can move forward.
Let me go show them where I think you are. Am I going to be criticized? Because I've heard the naysayers say this. Our challenge with Parker's approach is that we feel like she is risk averse. That's what I've heard people say. And it goes back to Solomon's question. It is because there are some folks in their minds who have developed a picture of what it looks like for a mayor to fight. And they have a right to have that picture in their image. I mean, we're the birthplace of democracy. Everybody has a right to an opinion. And I also heard people use that in an effort to weaponize this point in time politically. I'm going to let them focus on the politics, and I focus on leading and progress. That's what I'm focused on. And for me, it's delivering tangible results. It's like saying that, we need housing. We're in the middle of a housing crisis in the city of Philadelphia, and you talk about it for generations. Parker comes along and say it's not enough. What does the research say? We know how many units we're behind. We have a goal of 30,000 units to build and preserve and restore here in the city of Philadelphia. We put a very comprehensive plan together with a menu of options on how to get us there. So that's the difference with me. Some people are, and you've heard me say it 1,001 times, Philadelphia, there are folks who are expert AOPs. These are expert articulators of problem. I am a fixer. I am a doer. I am an action-oriented elected official, public servant. It is what I know how to do. My career is anchored in delivering. You talk about public safety in the city of Philadelphia, and we look at the numbers, 34% reduction in homicides. God's will, we continue on the track where we're going this year. We will end potentially 2025 at a 50-year low as it relates to homicides in the city of Philadelphia. I know lots of people want to credit one thing over another. Grassroots community-based organizations and advocates extremely important to that process, but I would also like to believe that our proactive, comprehensive approach with prevention, intervention, and enforcement is a part of that. So it's an overall strategy. The issue is there are some right now who don't think the strategy that we're employing, that it will help move the needle. I would argue doing what we've been doing for the last 40 years, it's not working. Yes.
I admire this approach. Jeff Hornstein from the Economy League. I'm really happy that this crisis has created this opportunity. One of the reasons I've been on Team Parker since 2018, when I first got to know you, is your take charge approach. So we've got maybe $1 billion of city procurement. That's what Della really wants.
Yes.
But there's also $10 billion, not including capital projects, on the private sector side. So we at the Economy League have a table built with all of our partners here, the Urban League, the Enterprise Center, and others, to leverage that institutional spend. Our baseline report in 2015 shows there's $500 million of addressable spend, but we need the city to help hold those institutions accountable, right? My lefty friends like to argue that they don't pay property taxes, so we should impose pilots. That will create a couple $1 million in revenue, and then Penn will sue and it'll go away again. We need to hold them accountable because they want stuff from the city every day. They want permits, they want tax relief, they want a whole bunch of stuff. So I'd like to hear you address that. How are we going to hold the private sector accountable? Because right now I can count on one hand the number of black-owned contractors that can build a dorm at Penn on their own. And we've been doing this for 40 years. And that is a problem, right? Because not just intention, it's seriousness. You got to be serious about addressing these problems and making sure that the large institutions, and I love them all, they're all on my board, I'm not saying anything bad about them. They talk, we got to make them walk, right?
One, Jeff, thank you. I appreciate it. I think what you just affirmed for us is the model and the approach that we've used for everything that we've done here in my administration. When you think about the business roundtables that we have, when you think about public safety, people, talked about our intergovernmental approach, and I can remember talking about that being a valuable tool, and people laughed. But you want me to tell you why that matters to me? Because you can't address the problem without everyone who is impacted or who has a potential role being at the table. When we talk to business owners, you know what they say? They need predictability. So even getting a contract from the city of Philadelphia for 1 year, and don't get me talking about our efficiencies and how long it takes to get paid when you get the contract for 1 year. Here with the stop it. We're working on it. We're working on that efficiency. But you're right, Jeff. Imagine if we're talking about scaling access to the opportunity to do business, and it's not just the city of Philadelphia, but it is those private sector organizations, along with some of our quasi-governmental entities. Now you're talking about scaling my ability to participate in the supplier sort of diversity network. And now when I'm looking at my spreadsheet, I'm not just looking at one fiscal year at a time. Now I can plan 3 years at a time. That's different, but that's not what the city of Philadelphia has done, Jeff. And working with Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, Nadir and the team, that's what the Parker administration will do. We're going to have another formal action to kick off the formality associated with what we're doing here. That was, and Vanessa, thank you for affirming this. When people say, and this is important to me that you all get this, how long has this been in the works? Did this just start this year? No. We started this, when did we get sworn in? The 3rd, the 4th?
January 2nd.
January the 2nd of 2024, and actually even before then, because it was during the transition, we had begun to lay the groundwork for how we were going to go to war with this status quo to ensure that there was access to economic opportunity for all, and making sure that those communities that had been left out of that opportunity, that they had a seat at the table, and we measured our effectiveness. We're going to make sure we do that. Sean?
You mentioned that folks think you're being risk averse here, but you're saying that this has been in the works since the transition. Does this have anything to do with the federal litigation potential, or is it really just something that you were going to do regardless of the legal climate?
No, that's a perfect question as well. It's both. It's not either or. We knew the system was broken years before, because every time we would look at the numbers and we would want to see how many black and brown and women and disabled owned business owners were growing in the city of Philadelphia, the numbers became stagnant. When I was in council, I can clearly remember giving a speech when we were working on a rebuild, and we began quoting stats that went back literally to Leon Sullivan and Charlie Bowser. And then you get notes of testimony and you read the questions in the comments that were made. I'm talking about even other council members who worked extremely hard on this issue. And we were asking the same questions. So did the Supreme Court ruling have anything to do with our decision making? Absolutely. But it wasn't the impetus for it. I ran on providing access to economic opportunity for all here in the city of Philadelphia. I talked about capital because I had a teacher who told me that training wasn't enough and you needed to find a way to leverage access to capital. That meant the ability to do business with the city of Philadelphia if you really want to accomplish what you said and do it in a meaningful and a tangible way. So, I really wanted to bring the stakeholders who are here today to say, I don't have the ability to stop the chattering class. It would expend too much energy, and quite frankly, I'm much more focused on delivering results for those of you who do this work and have constituencies and are business owners in this room. I'm here to tell you that while we're moving forward, I need you. There are those who want to stay in a place where what they are doing is complaining. I will not complain about a broken system that never functioned and delivered in the way in which it was intended. We are building something that does not exist here in the city of Philadelphia. We are asking you to join the fight. with us. Let's build a new system and provide access to opportunity in doing business in the city of Philadelphia for everyone, but our local and small businesses in particular. And I'm here today to ask you all ready to work with us to help us do that here in the city? Yeah, I do, but we opened up the floor to them, and I didn't want to start calling names first. So not yet. Business owner back there, come on up so we can see you. Thank you, thank you. Val, come up just a little bit more, please.
I'm trying not to. I want to be on camera, not up here. First of all, I want to commend you because you're right. It hasn't been working. I've been in this for 36 years. When I started, CROSIN, compelling governmental interest, strict scrutiny, narrowly tailored, those were the frameworks of my professional career, right? So I understand that. And I understand that as we measure progress, what we see is that we are at a point of stagnation. We have to also recognize that we are dealing with different groups of businesses. So we have an ecosystem in Philadelphia that's primarily service-oriented, professional services. We focused for many years on the construction industry, and I'm in it. I'm all the way in it. But we have to look at the full ecosystem. My one ask of the city, because as Della talks about access to capital, and you know I'm all inside this private equity world, you can't create access to capital if the city doesn't work on its payment process. You gotta work on the payment process. Businesses cannot have healthy P&Ls without cash flow. So if there's not a way for the city to solve how they're paying small, diverse, large, middle market vendors, we're not gonna have progress. So I do commend the work that you're doing. I do recognize that for 40 years we have been having the same conversation. If you go back, I wrote an article in 2008 called 20 Years Later, which talked about the fact that we had not progressed in 20 years, and here we are almost 20 years again, and we still haven't progressed. It was in construction today, if y'all want to look it up. But I say that not to toot my own horn, but to tell you you're doing the right thing. It's the difficult thing, because people don't like change. Private industry has a significant role in this.
Yeah.
The city can't do this. The money, as Jeff has said, is in the private market. But we also got to build scalable businesses. Businesses that are solopreneurs, that are micro enterprises, are not supporting the supply chain, but you're supporting each other. So your next opportunity is to your left or your right, not necessarily on a named building. And you gotta respect, appreciate that, and grow that way. But please, I'm gonna keep imploring you, work on the payment process, because we are not gonna get capital if you don't have cash flow.
Listen, they said, I wanted to say one, just I appreciate you for your thoughtfulness, and I appreciate your honesty. I take that the city of Philadelphia has to work through this antiquated and outdated payment system that has forced people, if you don't have disposable income, set aside. People have told me that they've got almost a year without payment. I've actually, I'm glad Ryan's not here. When you talk about construction, they told me about firms that have closed because they just didn't have the cash flow. But what I really appreciate you doing is moving the conversation, because when I was in council, I heard a lot of people talk about the trades. And I remember thinking about, what about professional services? I remember thinking about, no, this is not just about sole proprietorship, but what about those who are the job creators? Because that's extremely important to us, because I want to put people on a path to self-sufficiency. My hope and dream is that every Philadelphian could have access to a skill that would allow them to earn a living wage, have their own health care and retirement security, so they wouldn't depend on government to do anything except pay their taxes, because they're self-sufficient. We can't do that if the private sector is not creating jobs. We can't do that without job creation. That's what we have to be focused on. That's also inclusive growth. But we get it. You can't have it if the city doesn't pay. Prompt pay, Nadir. That's looking Nadir.
One more.
Yes, ma'am.
You
One
got
more
the right
thing.
guy in that seat.
Do not leave the school district out of the conversation. Do not leave the school, because your next generation of employees, entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders are coming out of our school system.
Did you? So, well, tell me, and I'm sorry, and I don't mean to just call. What's your name again?
Everybody knows who I am.
Valerie.
Yes, ma'am.
When I was on the trail and I talked about creating this thing, it's called CCME. It's the City College for Municipal Employment. And I said the City of Philadelphia proper, the school district, Community College of Philadelphia, Philly Works, we had to all be at the table together, and we had to be training students in the school district of Philadelphia. But you can't talk about helping our students if you're not talking about helping their caregivers. Notice I didn't just say their parents, because there are a whole lot of children who are being raised by somebody other than their biological children. But if we were going to help them, we had to provide a pipeline for them to get access to training and to be able to work with the City of Philadelphia, the state, or the federal government. That's what we have established now. So that's a part of our developing pipeline. Students in the school district of Philadelphia, but adults as well, who want to skill up, who want to switch industries right now. And we're building that out, and that's under the Chief of Staff Tiffany Thurman's portfolio. I appreciate that thoughtfulness. Yes, Sanders. Chair of the, I'm sorry, introduce yourself.
Yeah, James Sanders, Chair of the Board of the African American Chamber of Commerce. So I want to talk about a few things, but I got one strict question. So one, Univest Bank, whom I work for, we were one of the partners, along with another regional bank, to invest in the Philadelphia Accelerator Fund, right? Initially, and helped it launch. And so served on the board there, and so Accelerator Fund's doing pretty well. I was on the meeting today with one of the local utilities that do a lot of procurement, and also served on a few economic oversight committees across the country, across the city, especially a $3 billion one that a gentleman you know very well, and a few other projects. What they continue to say and have said over the years is that they've benchmarked their procurement around small, local, diversity, and all the above based on what the city does. And so you have a direct impact to the small, mid-sized, emerging businesses by the change you're going to make now. But the indirect impact, can you talk about that a little bit, whoever on your team may be able to talk about it? Because while you're going to be rolling something new out, it also is going to have an indirect impact on how the other $10 billion that's going to be procured across the city and maybe throughout the region, because the way the city did things is the way large telecom Fortune 50 did things, large real estate developer did things, large utility did things to procure to the businesses, because it's the way the city did. So can you talk about that again, and maybe somebody on your team?
No, first let me address that first. I want to talk about Raj Chetty's research on economic mobility. And then I become the new mayor of the city, and access to economic opportunity is a significant part of my platform. And we invest the first budget $10 million to establish that CCME process. Once we establish the CCME model for workforce development and skilling up, the private sector and the philanthropic community said, this is the investment that the city of Philadelphia is making, and as a result of it, we are going to come together and we're going to match those dollars. Now I'm thinking about Comcast. What was the philanthropic group? What foundation was that? It was Comcast. It was about 2 or 3 other foundations who came together. The Philly Gives a process, a group of philanthropic organizations that came together. You want me to tell you why we were able to do that? Because we didn't function in a silo here. So we can't work on building out this program and not have PICO and PGW and the University of Pennsylvania and Jefferson and all of those entities to the table. And guess what, Sanders, guess what I'm happy about? I don't have to run scurrying trying to get to them all to bring them to the table. because we already have a structure through which we communicate and coordinate, and it's through those business roundtables that we work through. So I'm fortunate that, remember, access to economic opportunity all was a thing for us before Raj Chetty's research was released and it became public. But it was great to have his research to affirm that our thinking about how we needed to scale access to economic opportunity, that it was significant. And those conversations that you just described, when we think about our overall spend as a city government that quite frankly hasn't met the mark and hasn't been doing what we wanted to do, having those conversations now, it helps. And I'm going to tell you, let me be very honest, I wasn't going to go here, but you asked, so I'm going to tell you. When we do pick up the phone, when I call as mayor of the city of Philadelphia and we're working to convene like those roundtables, you know what the private sector says to me? Mayor, we're surprised to hear from you. I'm calling. We're taking the initiative. The city is leading, and the private sector has been willing. The philanthropic community has been willing to engage because we're not doing it in silos. Any technical kind of responses that you want to add?
Hey James, how you doing?
Good.
So the indirect impact is we're going to be able to measure wages earned, tax revenue generated for the city, and also that induced spend with how some of our local and small suppliers spend with their suppliers and with their manufacturers also. So we're going to measure all of that. We're going to see what type of economic impact we're doing that way.
And it won't be on the shelf. It won't be on the shelf. Or delivered to you in such a way where people want you to have a PhD in order to decode the data, so that you really don't understand what it is. It will be done in a very simplistic way when we can say this is where we are. Either Philadelphia is meeting the mark, we're doing okay, or we're doing terribly. But we will be transparent in communicating that. Remember, the Walter P. Lomax Transparency in Business Act that required that transparency with reporting for contracts over $100,000, that was my baby. That was long before Supreme Court's ruling. That was long before the city of Philadelphia was sued. We're committed and we're intentional about it. That's extremely important. Somebody over, I thought somebody in the back. Yes, David? David? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand up. David?
So I have a comment and then I have a question. The first comment is, there is less than 5% of minority caterers on the downtown museums.
Oh, wow.
Less than 5%. Secondly, with 4 major events coming to the city next year, and I've already started my work at meeting with different organizations, putting together boxes and things like that for each and every event. Does the city have a targeted percentage of minority participation in each one of these vendors? Because I know for a fact that if there's only 5% minority caterers on the downtown museums, where most of the events are going to go to, what about the restaurants? What about Belmont Mansion? What about Pink Plate Cafe? Who and how are we going to get into the neighborhoods to reach some of these businesses between Spring Garden and Shelton? Because I feel like they're going to be left out.
Vanessa, I did not talk to David. I did not ask David to ask that question. Half the battle, David, is knowing how to get access to the information so that you can participate. You don't know what you don't know. So I know there have been several sessions about what will happen in 2026. I want to affirm to you that the city of Philadelphia proper will have a directory that we will develop through a system and a process that we will have available for any business. I don't care if you're a DJ. I don't care if you're an MC. I don't care if you play the drums or if you're a caterer. I don't care what it is. If there's a service or some kind of product that you offer and you want to be available to do business with the city of Philadelphia, when we unveil this process, you will be able to include your information, and we will be with all of the stakeholders, and not just in Center City, because if you remember the difference with what we're talking about doing, 250 events for our 250th quincentennial birthday. So that's in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia. This won't simply be a center city based activity. So let's just think of this, the Pink Plate Cafe. What if they said, we want to do business and we want to benefit from these activities, but we don't necessarily want to do it downtown? Guess what? There will be activities taking place throughout the city of Philadelphia in neighborhoods that they can participate in. And those vendors, not just the museums, folks have they have mentioned to me not just museums. There are other formal organizations here in the city of Philadelphia who will be hosting a litany of activity. And they may not necessarily be museums. There are other formal entities that have very well established and healed boards and a great deal of fundraising prowess and capacity. But David Sims and Edible Delights may not be on their preferred caterers list. For people to even know that choosing you is an option. All of that will be a part of that process with what we are convening. We are not responsible for anything that anyone else says or commits to outside of what we as the city of Philadelphia proper do. Was I diplomatic?
Okay.
Mayor?
And I can personally help you with whatever it is that you need. And here's my card before we leave.
The business owners, any other business owners? Yes, Ann.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a little nervous in front of a crowd, but I just came from Harrisburg to learn about contracting, because as a small business owner, I fight for businesses in my industry. So I see Daryl over there, and for the Madam Mayor, I looked at you before you became mayor because I saw what you did on Wadsworth Avenue. And said, I'm a supportive woman that has supported small businesses. And not just that, but you supported Power Up Your Business. I graduated from Power Up Your Business. So I look at the work and I'm grateful. So for me, this is an opportunity for small businesses to grow. I work with Regina, I work with the Urban League. I see Miss Della, I'm in the process of working with her because manufacturing is where we lead into. So I just got off the phone with Pam. I'm saying all that to say that we need to work together and really be consistent and persistent in this process. And so when I get pushed back because you are our mayor, I had to stand up and say, it's so difficult. I don't say I'm a black woman in business. I say I'm in business. So when I look at you as the mayor, I don't look at you as a woman. I look at you as a leader. So I think if we move forward, that's how the mindset has to be moving forward. We can't look at you as a woman who's a mayor. We have to look at you as a leader who's leading our city, which is leading our country.
Wow.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for that, Ann. You've been in the trenches for a long time, and you and Daryl. I need to say thank you to you because I can remember we were in the midst of COVID. That's when we really first connected. I was a member of council, and I can remember the city of Philadelphia had developed a plan to help small businesses, and then we got the first round of data back from the program, and the very constituents in the very neighborhoods that we were trying to help, they weren't the ones who were getting access to the funding. And we went to the table and worked for, from beginning to end with the Commerce Department, Celine Wilson and the entire Karen who's there, the entire Commerce team. And that's how we stood up the SABRE program. Fact. Thank you. Listen, you know what Daryl, you know what I haven't done well? And I learned this from the campaign, but it's just not it's just not the way. I haven't run around. Elaine, I haven't run around just saying, look at me. This is what I've done. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Just look at me. I haven't done that.
I talk about it every day.
But I've been hooked on the results. When you're in government, anybody can come up with a concept or an idea and talk about you should do this, you should do this, you should do that. And Lord knows I've seen it. I get much more excited about having a team who understands the assignment, and then you operationalize it. You see it work in a bureaucracy where things don't necessarily move as quickly as you would like. And people are really adverse to change, and they want to continue doing things the way that we've always done them. But if I didn't think it was possible, there would be no Power Up. There would be no PHLTCB. There would be no, no clean and green cabinet right now. all of the work that we've been doing in a very tangible way to deliver results, all of it has been because we've been successful in operationalizing. That, that's why people say, well, why'd you know you were going to run for mayor? I served in the legislative process and learned so much from Harrisburg, from working as a staffer and, leadership in council, watching the greats who led, and then, being there with then Council President Darrell Clark and working along at that time Council President Kenyatta Johnson and I. We were colleagues, and we were about to move forward on this track, and people said, how? And I said, because I need to implement. I'm a doer. I'm a fixer. I've got to show people that government works, and that is what we've been doing in the park administration. Now, does it make some people uncomfortable? Yes, because there are some people who have benefited from the dysfunction, and when they're knocking on the door, they're not getting the response that they've been getting. They've been accustomed to getting in past years, and they're not getting it from us because we're not going to do business as usual. We're going to make sure we develop a program that works, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. Now, does that mean we're going to be perfect? No, we're not. But if we have you, if we're interacting with you in real time, like Regina, I know you're going to let us know, and you all are going to let us know, and you're supposed to. Right? That's how this works. But that is how we will be successful together. So again, you're not going to hear me try to counter the chatter. You're going to hear us take a formal action step, and we're going to do that very soon in a very formal way to etch in stone a commitment to what we've been working on developing for the past 2 years since I've been here. And we want you to work with us so that we can get it done. Is that it, Joe?
Mayor,
Oh, no, over here.
One more right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, let's just start by saying this. Let's speak this into existence. When this program rolls out and it's being created to give a testimony that it is working for us, how can our voices be heard, or how can we be in these rooms to say, hey, it's out here, it's working for me, this is how it'll help my business?
I'm telling you, you can't make this up. You remember when we started having all of the fiscal uncertainty at the federal level? I can remember some members of the nonprofit community contacting the city of Philadelphia, and they were asking us, what were we going to do to replace revenue that they had lost because certain federal funding was being cut? And we said we didn't have the ability to replace that revenue, but what it affirmed for me was that we didn't have a table. Donovan, we just talked about this in the last meeting. I had in my mind, we thought about sports and entertainment. We had real estate. We had all of these different industries at the table. We did not have nonprofit leaders at the table. So Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, she coordinated a meeting, large, medium, and small groups, and something amazing happened. They began talking to each other. And when they began talking to each other, you can't make this up. I don't remember the young lady's name, but when I say the big guys were in the room, Urban Affairs Coalition was in the room. I'm talking those that were really established. They were in the room. What's with Cynthia? Jazz. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about the people who understand the process, and they, Lori Jones, Phil Abundance was in the room. But then there were some smaller organizations that were just getting their legs, under them and getting started. And we started talking about, and you probably already do this. How many of you have heard of something called the Cities Combined Campaign? Anybody here ever heard of the Cities Combined Campaign? So when you work for the city of Philadelphia, we have a combined campaign when we're signing up for our benefits. And it's a list. And when I tell you there's a list, I mean hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nonprofit organizations around the city and our region who sign up to be on this list. And then city employees, where we at, Tiffany, 29,000? 29,000 city employees, they get a chance to determine how much money they want to contribute to those organizations in their own right. And then it's tax deductible for them. So I'm going to use me as an example. I'm an Oak Lane Wildcat. When I was a staffer for Marion, I was a cheerleader, I ran track for the Flames. When I was a staffer in council, I remember saying, why aren't the Oak Lane Wildcats on this combined campaign? All of the other organizations are nice, but I want to give my money to the Oak Lane Wildcats. Guess what? Now I got to check and see if they kept complying and they still on that list. I don't know. But guess what? Oak Lane Wildcats had gotten on that list. Guess what? The small organization, she had never even heard of the combined campaign. So what is she doing now? They're developing a campaign for all of the people that they know in the city of Philadelphia who say they support her efforts. And now she's campaigning, asking City of Philadelphia workers to choose her, check her box on the application and choose to give her organization funding. So I want you to do the math and tell me what happens if 29,000 City of Philadelphia employees decided that they would give $5 out of every check that was tax deductible. How does that help an organization? But she doesn't know that if she doesn't come to the table. So my job is to create a table where you're not excluded. Yes, you're here. And yes, you all are fairly new and you just opened up. But how do we make sure that you are connected to Regina, who's head of the African American Chamber of Commerce? Why don't you know Della Clark from the Enterprise Center or Jeff from the Economy League? Every support and service available, they should be willing to help you, and not just you, the mid-size. Della, you know, I can wake up hearing you in my brain. And it's not just small business. It's mid-cap sizes, right? And it's those that are grossing over $1 million, $2, $3 million a year. How are we going to help you increase the amount of money that you earn on an annual basis when you're doing business? The only way I know how to do it is for us to all be at the table with all of the technicians, and we find a way to move it over. Again, I want to close with this. Again, I can't counter the chattering class. I've got too much work to do. I'm a doer. So I won't spend, I'm telling you, I won't spend an ounce of time giving any of my rare space in this brain of mine. That chattering will not occupy space here, because we're laser focused on solutions, getting it done. So if anybody thought that the way you would get my attention as mayor of the city of Philadelphia, that's a way to ensure that you will never occupy space in my brain. I'm going to be focused on the business owners and the stakeholders who want to move our city forward, who are doers, who are fixers, who are action-oriented, and who are not specializing in being expert articulators of the problem. Yes, Jack?
Hi, Mayor. Yes, I do have a question.
Yes.
My name is Jack Chen, and I'm a member of the Asian Chamber,
Yes,
and then also from many businesses throughout the city,
Yes.
Different communities as well. And then I'm also a restaurant owner. So, well, thank you. Yes. So one of the questions, right? So as the city pivots the priority, right, to small and local, right? I mean, I'm local, so does your administration consider any new vendor, the support mechanism? As this is my first time looking, seeking help from the city, such as say simplify the certification, or other how to just ensure say all this small local business across all the different community getting the support and the help from the city.
So Jack, one, thank you for that question, because so I've just hinted at it a couple of times in my comments, but what you are asking for are the very specifics as it relates to goals, objectives, and programs. Now there's several. I'm thinking about the Catalyst Fund. That's what the Catalyst Fund was what we did here. I'm talking about since I've been here in the Parker administration, and then the Catalyst Fund. I want to make sure I'm giving you the accurate numbers. Listen, this is, and I don't know if you've taken advantage of this, but the Small Business Catalyst Fund, we launched it this summer. And in the first quarter, we awarded 61 small businesses a total of $2.48 million. Okay, 61 businesses to implement their growth plans. Of the 61 businesses, 49% are black, 17 28%. They are white owned, 7. That's 11%. They're Asian owned, and then there's 7 more, 11%. They're Latino owned. We did that in the first quarter of the Small Business Catalyst Fund that was launched this summer. So expect more specifics, like that as we move forward and we hear your voice, right, about what are the needs. Nadir?
Yes.
When the young lady spoke and she talked about, and Jeff said 6 months, and she talked about the fact that we had to move faster. We can't get upset with that kind of comment, right? Because that's a concrete response to what is it that the city of Philadelphia could and should be doing different and or better to help move this agenda forward. That's a very concrete example. That's what we hope, Jack, you will do to help us if we are at the table moving forward and we're trying to implement this plan. You've given us very specific recommendations about what we can and should be doing to help improve this process, but we will do it together.
Yeah.
We will do it together.
Yes, that will be helpful because not only myself, right? I also have other small business owners who are really kind of small and then like new immigrants as well.
Yes.
And they are seeking all kind of help, not only from city. The chamber also helping, like providing bilingual services. That's awesome. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Look, there are some people. When you mentioned our immigrant community and new businesses, Renee, you heard our city solicitor speak. Look, there were people who told us that leadership meant just defying the law. He said, forget about the Supreme Court ruling. Philadelphia should just continue functioning and operating its program, even if your law department and these genius lawyers at this firm who have clerked for Supreme Court justices. So, I'm going to take some advice from somebody to interpret a Supreme Court ruling. Great for some folks who have worked there. We've had some folks who've literally said, that doesn't matter. We don't care about the Supreme Court ruling. And I say, you have the luxury of not caring about the ruling. I'm the mayor of the city, and I have to be responsible to 1.6 million, we're getting close, 1.6 million of Philadelphians. And I'm not going to leave any neighborhood or any zip code or any constituency behind, especially those communities that need it most. And for anyone to think that I, as a black woman, who grew up, whose real life experience is rooted at navigating at the intersection of race and gender, would forget about the body of work that I have engaged in throughout my life. You got a right to your opinion. You just don't know this man. Okay, thank you so much for your time, okay?